Bringing Republican Senator John Barrasso, chairman of the Senate Republican Conference. Senator, thank you for your time and your quick hustle to the camera.
Thank you,
good
Bill.
afternoon to you. What is your question, if you have one at the ready, that will be filed with Chief Justice John Roberts, Senator?
Well, I have a number of them at the ready, and we're meeting as a group of Republicans to come up with a whole list of questions. But I want to know if it's appropriate for a president of the United States to investigate corruption, especially with other countries, when we know that the process up until that point hasn't been effective at protecting taxpayer monies. I think it's appropriate. Of course, the Democrats think it's not. But let me just back up for a second, Bill. What we've heard here, I believe, is a very strong case by the president's team, pointing out how this is being done not along the lines of the Constitution, but used as a political process in a partisan way, and certainly in an election year. They're already going to be voting in Iowa on Monday. We have a very successful presidency. We have a successful president, a booming economy, and yet the Democrats seem to say, no, we need to get rid of all of this and eliminate the president, not just from office, but from the ballot this coming year.
It would appear that the overall appetite from the vast number of Republican senators is to end this quickly. However, there are a few who have perhaps withstood that temptation or risk at the moment. When is the next time that Republican senators will have that conversation among yourselves to figure out what is the best strategy forward?
Well, you are right. The momentum in the conference is to end this quickly. We had a very fair process following along the lines of Bill Clinton's trial, as opposed to the very unfair process in the House. We have 2 more days of questioning, and we're then going to come to a decision of, do we need additional information, or have we heard enough to move to final judgment? And from what I've heard, it is overwhelming that we need to go through this process more quickly, and that the president should not be removed from office. They did not make the case, and even the articles they brought don't, to my way of thinking, rise to the level of impeachable offenses.
Senator, the outstanding issue comes back to the question of witnesses, however. What is the consensus you believe will be arrived at on Friday? No one is yet answering that question or getting ahead of that moment, but what is your sense today as to whether or not you hear from John Bolton and whether or not Hunter Biden ultimately makes an appearance during this trial?
Well, we've already heard plenty from John Bolton. The reports are out. We've heard, obviously, on tape from Hunter Biden. What I want to do is say, I believe the American people, and this is what I hear at home in Wyoming, people have heard enough. People have lost interest in this process. They realize it's partisan. They realize it's political. They realize it's about, in an election year, removing a president. I have heard enough. I've read the transcript of the call, so I'm very comfortable with what I know to make that decision without hearing additional witnesses, additional documents at this point.
Well, nonetheless, though, if you do not get your wish, then is there a legal fight? And does that legal fight follow the trail of 21 years ago, where there's a quick expedited case that goes up to the U.S. Supreme Court? How do you play out those scenarios today, Senator, and weigh how that could affect this trial?
Well, I think it could drag the trial on indefinitely. It could end up in what people call the twilight zone of a trial, a circus atmosphere. I don't think we need to go down that route. I'm looking forward to voting this week on Friday to say I have heard enough to make an informed judgment and make a final judgment call. And I'm hoping that the proper number of senators make that same vote so we can just move on to a final judgment and make sure that we can just, Bill, every day we spend here, we're not working to help do the work of the American people in terms of lowering drug costs, in terms of, like, I chair the committee that oversees the highway bill, transportation, roads, bridges. We need to do more to help our veterans. There is so much work to be done on the behalf of the American people, and while this impeachment trial is going on, none of that work is getting done.
I'm assuming, based on your answer, sir, that we don't have an answer as to witnesses. But we can't say whether that happens or not today.
Well, I think people are going to listen carefully to the questions. 8 hours tomorrow. I expect it to be a long day. 8 hours the day after that, and then the final decision will be made with a vote on Friday.
Okay. All right, Senator, thank you so much. John Barrasso, we'll see what happens later today and what information we get and feedback from the Hill. Thank you for your time. Republican Senator John Barrasso there in a moment.